Good evening, friends, and welcome to this very important talk today from Mr. Venkat Changavalli. We all know the importance of services now in today's economy, even in the pre-COVID era, and the challenges as well as disruptions that has come post-COVID has made this subject very important today. And we have an excellent leader in this area, if in this field of services delivery, Mr. Venkat Changavalli. I welcome you, sir. And it is my great privilege to introduce Mr. Venkat Changavalli is a management consultant, leadership mentor, teacher, and inspirational speaker. He provides professional services for developing business, partnership, and leadership through innovation in healthcare and education sectors. An MBA from IIM Ahmedabad and BTech from NIT Warangal. Mr. Venkat has over 34 years of experience, including 19 years as CEO in the Indian and multinational corporations for pharmaceuticals, chemical, FMCG, allied, and emergency healthcare industries. He was the CEO of Emergency Management and Research Institute, and under his leadership, 108 services that we very well know now has reached out to 11 states in less than 6 years with 3,000 ambulances and has responded to 12 million emergencies, must be more now, and saved over 350,000 lives. He is on the boards of State Bank of India, Hyderabad, Butterfly Education Fields, and Senate member of the IIT Hyderabad and member of the Global Innovation Board, Sanofi Aventis. Mr. Changavalli has received awards for his human services, including Pranadatta Award, Hill Leadership Award, Emmy Leadership Award for the moral courage, to name a few. It's an excellent opportunity for us all to learn from Mr. Venkat on the opportunities and challenges, particularly in the service dealership and the leadership thereof. Sir, I'm again welcoming you and present this platform and invite you to give your talk, please, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Pandya. Thank you so much. Namaskar and very good evening to everybody. I'm extremely happy to be back to address Ahmedabad Management Association after almost a gap of 5-6 years. I used to come regularly to AMA. Now last 5 years I could not come, and I'm happy that I'm able to speak today to the prestigious members of a very prestigious management association which won many first awards in the country from AMA. I had chosen this topic today, service delivery leadership. Now, we have been hearing how to deliver a product, what kind of leadership is required to deliver a product. But I thought I must share with you from my experience as a CEO of EMRI for 6 years and subsequently having designed UP100, the police management, emergency management system to deliver police emergency responses to citizens of UP. Every day, 142,000 calls come there. Based on this experience of rendering services to citizens of the country for health and home, I thought we should understand today the importance of service, its a delivery, and the leadership which makes this service delivery consistent and reliable. Every service, every day, to every citizen across the state and the country. Now, I would like to talk to you first about the service, then about the delivery, then about the leadership, and particularly leadership in a non-profit setting. What kind of leadership is required? First is service. Now, a service is not a product. It is distinctly different from a product, because you cannot inventory the service unlike a product. Number two, customer is participating in the service delivery. He's participating with you, he's with you. So an emergency victim, when he dials for 100, when an ambulance reaches and serves him, the victim is participating, he is there as you are delivering the service. So when the customer is participating, he is getting benefited instantly, and it is time dependent. If I have to provide a CPR to the patient, I have to provide then. I can't say wait for next day morning. So the service is time dependent, and unfortunately, unlike a product, there is no patent for a service. And then there are moments of truth in the service delivery. For example, by delivering a service, emergency response service of 108 to an emergency victim, what are the kinds of moments of truth available? First one is when he dials 108 on a mobile phone or a landline, the moment it gets connected, that's a moment of truth. Second moment of truth is the moment the communication officer who picks up the phone and contacts him and speaks to him, good morning, you have reached 108. That is the second moment of truth. Third moment of truth is when this information collected from CO is transferred to the dispatch officer, and the dispatch officer talking to the caller in a seamless manner. That is the third moment of truth. Fourth moment of truth is when the ambulance starts and he talks to ambulance EMT, talks to the victim or the relative saying, I started my vehicle, I'll be there in 10-12 minutes. That is the next moment of truth. Next moment of truth is arriving. Ambulance arriving the scene or site of the place of accident or where the emergency happened. In the 10 minutes, 12 minutes, what the EMT told is the next moment of truth. Next moment of truth is the way the EMT meets the patient first and provides pre-medical care on the scene. Next is the way the patient is transferred without any pain, without any efforts. If the patient is transferred to the ambulance, that is the next moment of truth for the patient. Next one is what kind of pre-hospital care is provided inside the ambulance, how this airway is secured, how the breathing is stabilized, how the circulation is ensured with various other things and fluid circulation. And then the way the vitals are controlled, stabilized, handed over at the hospital. The handing over at the hospital smoothly is the next moment of truth. And the last one is after 48 hours, someone from the EMR ringing up the patient and asking him, how are you? How was your stay at the hospital? Did they take care of you? These kind of moments of truth is something extremely important only in a service setting. Now, please remember, to do all this, you have to understand what is a service. Service is nothing but gaining a rapport, giving him an attention in an empathetic environment. Gaining rapport, attention in an empathetic way is service. Now, how to delight that customer while delivering the service? Now, it's extremely important to delight the customer, because every time, while serving a patient, while serving the customer, you have to imagine it is the first time and the first customer. Then only you can delight a customer. You cannot delight a customer if you think today is already the 5th patient I'm attending. Today it's already 10th call I'm attending. No, I have to imagine it's the first customer, so that my energy levels and my preparedness and my attitude will be at highest level. Second important thing to delight a customer is to have a free conversation. Without these mobiles and using a laptop, all this kind of thing, having a free flow of conversation helps you to delight the customer. Next tip to delight a customer is asking questions sincerely, and then shutting up and listening to the customer or the patient, the answers. Because you asked a question for an answer, then you have to jolly well listen. To listen, you have to shut up. Building that relationship, building the trust down is what makes the customer delight. So this is the first aspect of this lecture, service part. It cannot be inventoried. It has no patent. It is time dependent, and the customer is participating. Now let us go to the second part of this lecture topic, delivery. Now delivery is basically smooth execution of the service what you promised him. I promised an emergency response service. Let me deliver that smoothly. I promised, in another service, I promised to take a call in 3 rings. Let me take that. So executing the promise in a smooth way is a delivery. And the quality at which you are delivering is equally important. And there are 2 aspects to this delivery: functional aspects and emotional aspects. Functional aspects is what you wanted to deliver in terms of technical functional skills, and emotional skills in terms of the relationship what you are building, hassle-free way in which you are delivering the service, and the image what you are building, the communication what you are maintaining between both of you is the emotional component of the service. The service value has 2 components: functional value and the emotional value. But what customer remembers is the emotional value, the communication. If the customer has lost 1 liter blood, and the EMT, when he meets him and tells him, oh, 1 liter, oh, Bob Ray, instead, he tells him, sir, it's only 1 liter. Yesterday, the guy who lost 2 liters has survived and he has a fantastic life. Nothing will happen to you. That kind of positive, inspiring communication is the most important emotional element of service. It is not just giving, him the medicines or the equipments to ensure that his airway is secured, he is able to breathe, IV fluids are given is one aspect. Second aspect is ensuring there is a proper communication, ensuring the transactions are completely hassle-free, and that there is a reputation built up, and you stand up to that reputation. And what are the success factors for delivering the service? First one is communication. Communication in terms of what you speak and how you speak. Are you maintaining a 2-way communication? Are you listening? Are you also emphasizing the important aspects of? Is there a empathy? Is there attention when you are asking a question and listening? This is the first component of service delivery. Second success factor for a good service delivery is process. The process have to be documented, it has to be adhered, and the deviations have to be corrected. Third one is the IT. The kind of IT you choose for delivering a service is extremely important, that is automating the processes. In UP 100, I spent 300 crores as capital expenditure to ensure the contact center solution is the latest from Avaya. Same way, dispatch solution is the latest from Hexagon. Same way, there is a mobile device terminal inside the police vehicle, 3,200 four-wheelers and 1,200 two-wheelers have got what we call MDT, mobile device terminal. This terminal is kept inside the vehicle. So from the contact center or the call center, whatever the caller has given the information, that screen gets transferred to the vehicle through this technology. There is no gap at all. What the patient, or in case of police emergency system, that victim has stopped, that information, which is recorded in the call center in Lucknow, is transferred to the 3,200 vehicles, relevant vehicle, appropriate vehicle, instantly. There is no loss of transmission of any word or anything like that. This technology, again, when he goes to the site of a rape victim or a crime or a robbery or a dacoity, he shoots from his MDT the scene, what is happening, and sends back that photo back to the call center. The technology enables all that. So the important thing, third important success factor in a service delivery is technology. Next point, people. I think it's not the qualifications of people who serve. In a service setting, I always found it is that attitude, it is that passion, it is that commitment, it is that ownership which compensates even if he is little bit less on the functional skill. So I saw many times in the first batch of ambulances in Hyderabad when we launched, first 300 employees, I was there to recruit them because I was seeing, for EMT I defined as empathy, modesty and trustworthiness. I was seeing in the interview, these three qualities are there or not. People make a difference in the service delivery. So the recruitment is the starting point. Next success factor in delivery is decision making. Decisions have to be made on the spot. You cannot make popular decision. You have to make a right decision. If required, you can make it popular, but not the other way around, making a popular decision and then telling people it's the right decision. That only politicians can do. But not a person who is in a service delivery setting. He has to make decisions. A quick decision maker, having collected information, having evaluated the options and then coming to the best alternative as the decision is extremely important with the contingency plan. Next important thing is change management. I think in a service setting, because customers aspire more and more and more every day. Their expectations keep changing. So in 2005, when we launched 108 services, ambulance coming itself is a great joy. But after 2007, in 2 years' time, they're saying, why are you late? If you are late by 1 minute after 15th minute, they're saying you are too late. We don't accept this. Whereas when we started 108 system, there was no such ambulance reaching in time. There was no oxygen. There was no PMT in ambulance. But today, now because you have to accept these changes in terms of aspirations of people of this country in receiving the services. Next is, of course, in a service delivery, the most important thing I practice as a leader is to review, review, and review. I always call it as, in an ambulance also, post-action review. They submit a report called PCR, patient case record form, and then review that form, how I stabilize the vitals of the patient. Did I do enough or can I improve it next time? Same way in the call center, some calls are taken to find out how these calls were answered. Could they be better handled? Can there be role model case handling so that could be used for training? And then, of course, regularly motivating the staff who deliver, recognizing them, rewarding them. Say, I remember a guy who was in the ambulance, EMT, call came to Hyderabad saying that there is a lady Villagers are saying she's dead. According to me, that boy of 8 years is saying that lady is not dead, but they are saying she's dead. I want you to send 108 ambulance. When the call was transferred to the EMT in the ambulance started. After 10 minutes, when they reached, the patient was kept on the bed of grass, and they lighted the lamp at the head, declaring her dead. When the ambulance reached, the EMT and pilot came down. As they were going nearer the patient, the local panchayat head sarpanch told our people, you need not waste your money because patient is dead. Now, as our people were turning to get back to the ambulance, they saw the toe of that lady's foot was moving. Then they realized, no, she's alive. And as they were going again, the local doctor stopped them. RMP said, no, she's dead. Again, second time, as they were turning back to ambulance, they saw the toe again moving of the foot. Then they didn't care. The EMT and the pilot went to that lady, saw her keratoid pulse. They got the pulse. Immediately they lifted her, brought her to the ambulance, and saw the sugar level. It was less than 40. Immediately they have given her IV fluids, started the vehicle. On the way to the hospital, she stood up and sat actually and asking, where am I? What happened to me? Now I am saying, how do you motivate this guy? Next day morning, I called that guy to Hyderabad with his family. At our cost, we called him. When it was displayed what he did to the patient, I touched his feet and told him, I do not know whether God is there or not, but you are the God for me who saved life. Now the guy says, sir, I belong to a different community and a low community and a Dalit, and you're touching my feet. I said, I do not care. All these communities, castes and creeds do not matter in service delivery. You are the God. You saved her life. For me, as a CEO of EMRI 108, you are my God. That is the way you have to motivate people who deliver services promptly. Another instance, I was coming from Kamareddy near Nizamabad. Night at 12:30 in my car, I saw an ambulance going in front of me. I stopped that ambulance. And the driver saw me and said, I'm sorry, sir. I have to go to the hospital because there is a patient inside, critically ill. She has to deliver a kid. I cannot stop, and he went away. When I came back to Hyderabad, it was night 1:30. I rang up the call center of 108 and told them, so-and-so vehicle at Kamareddy, I want to talk to that pilot and EMT. Whenever they are free, ask them to talk to me. They talked to me at 3:30 in the night. They were thinking that I will punish them. On the contrary, I said, I'm extremely proud of you as a EMT and driver of this vehicle who are 8th level below me. And you had guts to tell the CEO, shut up. I cannot wait for you. My patient is important. I am taking him to the hospital. How proud and happy I am. Please come tomorrow. And I recognize them next day morning, patting them and giving all kinds of certificates and whatever incentive. This is the way you have to motivate who delivers the service. And then, of course, training. When they join, we give 2 months training. Again, every year, 10 days, we train them. They bring the cases, how they handled, how they could have handled better. Same thing I did in UP 100 in police emergency system. We trained the constables and the sub-inspectors when the system was launched. Again, 10 days every year, on-the-job training for 10 days when they come back. So, to conclude on the delivery aspect, there are important delivery success factors. Number 1 is the process. Number 2 is the people. Number 3 is the IT. Number 4 is the communication. Next one is decision making, timely and ethical decision making. Change management, reviewing the performance and cases, motivating people, training people. All these elements will make delivery smooth and spotless. Now, I covered, ladies and gentlemen, two aspects of the lecture. One is service, second is delivery. Now let me talk to the third point, leadership. Now, general leadership is what John Cotter, professor of Harvard Business School, says in a very simple way. He didn't call it, but I'm calling it a damn leadership. Damn leadership is leader is supposed to set a direction. That's the D part. A part is aligning people to the direction with repeated communication. M is the motivating and energizing people when they actually walk in that path. So DAM is setting a direction, aligning people, motivating them. I had set a direction to EMRI. Vision is to save 1 million lives a year in a PPP framework. Align people. If every ambulance makes, say, 4 trips a day, and it makes 100 trips a month, and it is, 1,200 trips, 4 trips a day, 30 days, 120, and 12 months, it makes 1,400. In that, what could be the emergency cases where life is at stake? If there are 5%, that means you alone will be able to save at least 100 lives a year, one ambulance. That means if I have 10,000 ambulances in the country as a whole, my vision of 1 million lives can be achieved. So aligning that vision of 1 million lives at ambulance level so that the EMT and the driver whom I was calling pilot can align to my direction. Leader, according to me, the one who learns, the one who energizes, the one who does things, the one who empathizes, who takes responsibility, is a leader in a simple sense. It is not charisma. Please remember, leadership in a service setting is not charisma. It is not showmanship. It is not public relations. It is performance, consistent behavior, and trustworthiness. The trustworthiness comes from integrity. The trustworthiness comes from positive attitude. The trustworthiness comes from competence. The trustworthiness comes from the results what you produce. In a service leadership, what I'm looking for is not PR, is not showmanship, is not charisma. It is purely trustworthiness, consistent behavior. And skills I'm looking for in a service leadership is he has to be a visionary. He has to think ahead. In 2005, when I joined EMRI, everybody laughed at me when I said we'll save 1 million lives a year. Everybody laughed at me. An ambulance will be there for every 1 lakh people. Everybody laughed at me. It will be done in PPP framework. They said, what nonsense you are talking? How can you work with governments? You have come from a private sector. You don't know how to work with an IAS officer or a politician. They never believed. When my vision was to save 1 million lives in PPP framework, I must tell you, all 12 states when I launched, I met people of Congress, I met people of DMK, I met people of BJP. Of course, BJP chief minister at that time, Mr. Narendra Modi, wanted to launch faster than a Congress chief minister at the most. But I was ruling in 12 states, EMRI 108, though the states were run by different parties. It doesn't matter. What is more important is the vision to save lives in PPP framework. To do that, I acquired humility because you are bigger. I gave credit to the governments. I did everything as if I am their servant, as if I do not know anything, only that leadership in the governments only know. That mattered, that helped me expand from 15 ambulances to 3,200 ambulances from one city to 12 states. Strategic thinking, communicating to people. In Gujarat launch, Ahmedabad launch, see, when I launched in Hyderabad on 15th August 2005, I took 4 months. 15th April 2005, I joined EMRI. 15th August 2005, we launched first 15 ambulances in Hyderabad. It took 4 months. Now on 27th June 2007, I got a call from Mr. Modi, that time Chief Minister, and said, what are you doing in Andhra? Tell me. When I made a presentation, even 50 minutes, he heard me without interrupting. After 50th minute, he said, Venkatji, badhiya hai. Chalo, 2 mahina ma karo. I said, sir, it takes 4 months. I did in Andhra 4 months. Andhra is Congress party. Rajshekhar Reddy. Here it is BJP, Narendra Modi. You have to do it in half time of that state. 2 months I am giving you. I said, not possible. He said, no, you are MBA from IIM Ahmedabad. Other MBAs, if they take 4 months, IIM Ahmedabad MBA should do half the time, so 2 months. He didn't leave me. He said, 2 months time, you have to launch. 27th June 2007, I met him and I launched on 29th August 2007. I got 2 days grace time because he was not free. On that day, the importance of communication of a leader came out very clearly. After my presentation, Mr. Modi spoke. Thank you, Venkatji. बहुत बढ़िया बात किया आप, लेकिन Gujarat is the first state, bhai aur behno, to launch 108 services in this country. Outside the mic, after Andhra Pradesh. Then he turned to me and asked me, Venkatji, kuch galti bola hai kya? I said, no. You are the first state after Andhra Pradesh. He had a choice to say, Gujarat is the second state after Andhra Pradesh, but he didn't say. He said first state after Andhra Pradesh. Even today, many Gujaratis think EMRI 108 was launched in Gujarat first in this country. That is the power of communication of a leader. Team building. You have to build teams in service setting. Leadership of a service delivery is extremely important when he builds teams without ego, with a common purpose, mutual accountability. And of course, keep innovating. We innovated 108. Number was not available till then. We innovated 108. When the government asked me to take 105, 106, 107, I took 108 because if you add 1 plus 0 plus 8 is 9, single largest number. And then a friendship word, FRINDSHIP, if you take in English A as 1, B as 2, friendship comes to 108 if you give value of 6 to F. Like that, when you give values and add them up, it comes to 108. So friendship is 108. And it happens between two people who love each other. Love plus love is friendship. Love is, L is 12, V is LOVE. L is 12, next is 15, next is 22, next is E is 5. Add up together 54. You love me and dial 108. 54 you are giving me. And I take your call and send the vehicle to you. I am giving 54 back to you. Both of them loving each other. There is a friendship happening, 108 happening. That's how we were able to innovate 108 and communicate its relevance to the people to dial. And probably 108 is one of the few brands or only brand which became popular in the country without spending any money. Today's recall level is more than 99. When you ask people, what do you dial in case of emergency, health emergency, they always say 108. Most important thing is execution. How to get it, how finally rubber touches the road and ambulance reaches the guys in time. On an average, 15 minutes is the time where ambulance was reaching. And of course, mentoring people, storytelling. How do you tell stories to people to motivate them is extremely important for a service delivery leadership. Now, change management. How I have to adapt to the change year after year after year. See, the ambulance, what I designed in Hyderabad is different for Gujarat, different for Uttarakhand, to meet the requirements of that state and the geographical regions. Whereas leadership in a non-profit setting like EMRI is a non-profit organization, delivering 108 services in PPP framework. So a leadership of a non-profit organization to deliver this kind of service, first of all, the leader has to respond to the needs of others with kindness and compassion. A leader with kindness and compassion only can make a difference in service delivery leadership in a non-profit organization. Second requirement of a non-profit leadership is he has to contribute to enlarging the well-being of the society. Next most important is, it is not image building. It is not a photo opportunity. It is not, washing guilds. It is basically, it is humility. To serve others is most important. It is professionalism, which is much more required in a non-profit leadership than in a profit leadership. And a lot of proactiveness to lead a non-profit service delivery. You have to be extremely proactive. Nobody came and asked me ambulance has to be done like this. Now, when we designed an ambulance, all ambulances were something where, whether you have an oxygen or not, you can go. We had an oxygen cylinder below the driver's seat where patient only gets oxygen, not the cylinder. Same way, there are 5 stretchers, not 1 stretcher. They have asked me, we want 5 stretchers. Normal stretcher, the wheels, the wheelchair stretcher, pediatric stretcher, the scoop stretcher, foldable stretcher. Then there is a wash basin to clean the blood stains. No need to, touch the tap of that wash basin. Pedal operated wash basin designed in 2005. You have to be proactive in service delivery. And then, of course, most important is non-profit leadership competency is much higher requirement than a profit leadership. If you don't make there in a profit setting, your competitor will take it. Here, competency is extremely important because each individual whom you are serving, you cannot inventory that. It's a time dependent, you have to deliver. Competence of the guy who is operating the ambulance, delivering the service there to the leadership, competence is important. That's why developing people, spending money on training programs is extremely important. Next important thing is, a leadership of a non-profit sector is not doing a favor to society. It's your responsibility to give back to society. Actually, I learned the joy of giving back to society. Medically, your dopamines increase. When your dopamines increase, your satisfaction increases. Number 2, your oxytocins increase. When your oxytocins increase, your attachment to people increases. Frontal cortex activity improves when you serve people. For those people, because of frontal cortex, you tend to be much more morally adhering person. And lastly, leadership gets a phenomenal satisfaction in non-profit setting. That satisfaction because you are serving others much beyond yourself. And truly, when you serve somebody whom you do not know, who is not connected to you, and as a leader, you are recruiting and training and making thousands of people deliver. My experience in 108, from 15 ambulances to 3,200 ambulances when I was running, and having 18,000 employees, and each one handling every day 12,000 emergency victims, and handling today, those ambulances have gone to more than close to 10,000 ambulances, and reporting and attending to 20,000 emergency victims, and saving at least 1,000 people every day. What a satisfaction I get today. I could make a difference to the lives of these people. I am proud Indian, where we could do what many other countries could not do at this national level. USA has got 6,500 call centers. We have only one for Gujarat, one for AP, one for Telangana. We have only one state, one. There, 6,500 call centers. This kind of technology is not used anywhere else. This kind of comprehensive recording report, nowhere else. Nowhere else this kind of PPP is done. Nowhere else this kind of competent people delivering. In this 15 minutes time, in a poor country, what we call, all negatives of our country, what people speak, still there is an oasis in this desert called 108, called UP 100. In UP 100, please remember, in a state like UP, when people told me, don't go there. When Akhilesh Yadav appointed me as advisor to him, and his government to set up this police emergency system. My classmates, my friends told me, don't go to UP, your name will come down. But I must tell you, in 11 months' time, I built the 2 lakh square feet UP 100 emergency response center. Nowhere in the world police system. 200 center seater, 700 women working as communication officers is a history. Same way as I told you, technology, 300 crores deployed first time. Nowhere. 3,200 police vehicles launched one day, independent of police station, independent of the house station in charge. We can do service delivery in this country, provided there is a leadership which is passionate, which is competent, which feels joy of giving back to the society. Thank you so much. I would like to take the questions now. UP 100, I must say today, they are taking around 125,000 calls every day, attending to 14,200 police emergencies, whether it's domestic violence or robbery or any of that type. And remember, 2 minutes 44 seconds they are able to dispatch a vehicle, and 13 minutes is urban response time, and 16 minutes is rural response time. On an average, around 15 minutes in UP, 22 crores people are getting benefited in the 75 districts today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. And we invite the questions from the participants now. You can put your question in the chat box. So there is a question, the first question I got is about the political pressure that comes when you are implementing such a project.
Yeah, they are politicians. They have to put pressure on you, but you are not a politician. You are a professional. I remember one minister asked me to employ his man as a driver for the ambulance. When he drove the vehicle in the test, he failed. I rang a minister and said, I'll definitely appoint you when you get an emergency. I will send a vehicle with him as a driver that time only. I cannot do because he doesn't know basics of driving. But sometimes some politicians take a stand. In Rajasthan, that health minister said, nothing doing. I said, okay, I cannot run for you. You have to withdraw. But I didn't want to compromise. Same way, unethical. In all these states where I went, I did not pay 1 rupee of bribe. But there was a state in which health minister wanted a bribe. I said, sorry, I cannot work for this state. Because you know where to take money, where not to take money. You want to take money even in 108 project, I cannot give. I'm sorry. I took the stand. But by and large, I must tell you, I stuck to my guns. I never ever compromised my ethics and values of giving money or any favor to any of them. But I succeeded. But I must tell you, politicians are much more reasoned people than some people in the corporate sector. They listen to you when they know something is at stake.
There is another question from one Mr. Satyavani, and this is about the such delivery leadership in the rural areas, especially when there are local governments.
Yeah.
When you are handling the local government means panchayat and all that, how it would be different.
Never ever I asked any favor from any panchayat or any municipality or anybody like that. At the most at district level, if there are some favors done I used to complain to collector. I used to I have a review mechanism where every 3 months I meet chief minister, chief secretary. Every month there is a meeting with with the health minister and health secretary. In the review meeting, I raise these issues. These are the issues I'm getting here. What do you suggest? Please tell me. Do you want me to favor like this? I cannot do. If you want to do, it's up to you. I used to bring them up to the level of, I told one CM, one doctor was not attending to the patient of ambulance when he's taken. I told him, sir, what to do now, you tell me. He was transferred. This is only sometimes in our mind that, difficult to handle politicians. But I found actually, they respect people who stick to their stand. They also like to respect ethical people because they want to be known that they also are close to ethical people.
Well, yeah, we have one participant from London, and he wants to know how we can implement this principle in the private sector.
See, I came to London to address NHS once. I was addressing NHS on my story of EMRA once. Private sector, we could only launch first 70 ambulances. EMRA, when it was private, 70 ambulance only could be funded. From 70 to go to 3,200, only government funding to reach that kind of massive people without charging a rupee. Here it is completely, charges are free. Not a rupee charged to people, unlike 165 pounds charged in London, unlike $550 charged in US. In India, every day, 20,000 health emergency victims get their pre-hospital care in ambulance without paying 1 rupee. It is not possible for a private sector to do this at this large scale.
So there is an interesting question about any kind of failure you might have faced while implementing any of such projects.
Yeah. Failures are basically, one is on expectations. See, the political expectations, bureaucratic expectations, you have to make it clear. So we signed agreements in which saying, we will do this, we will not do this. Same way government will do this, government will not do this. Number two, we have communicated to people. So we have also conducted every village, every city, when we go, we conduct meetings of beneficiaries who got their life back. They come and share with them their experiences, what happened to them. We also produce some movies and films to be shown in the cinema theaters to show people why to dial 108 and what they get benefited. Failures can be in terms of, not reaching in time sometimes. Some roads are suddenly dug and instead you have to take a deviation. Sometimes a political rally is happening, the ambulance is not allowed. But unlike this, sometimes when Jagan Mohan Reddy was conducting a rally like this before he became CM, he was the first one who said, let 108 vehicle go. It's basically, instead of we assuming they will not allow, we have taken this to the police, we have taken to them and represented, and the way was found. There could be some challenges and some fail. We discuss every month and then take appropriate actions after the review meeting.
No, I think what is in mind is about the failure in implementing a project somewhere in some location.
See, throughout my 6 years, never ever I got delayed by 1 day. 1 day I have not delayed. In Andhra Pradesh, 15th August 2005. In Gujarat, 29th August 2007. In UK, it was 15th May 2008. Goa, it was 5th September. Then it was 15th September in Tamil Nadu, 20th September in Rajasthan, 6th November in Assam. There was no date missed anywhere. You have to walk backwards. Never ever where I said, sorry, I didn't get this. Because I worked back with the people.
And then there is some connected question also about your being able to manage the stress when you are implementing, or you are at the leadership stage in implementing the project.
Yeah, there is a lot of stress, but I am very disciplined in terms of I do my yoga, and I am a vegetarian, and I follow certain habits, and I love this job more importantly. I love doing this and I loved helping this because I thought my life is not complete. God has given me an opportunity. Let me do that well instead of complaining. Here also I cannot do. Then my life is useless. I don't remember even one single diazepam or a sleeping pill I ever took. I don't remember in my last 20 years I took a diazepam. I didn't even take a dolo.
And
Today,
one question.
Today, for example, from 6 o'clock, now it's 50 minutes. I'm standing in front of the mic, 50 minutes, I'm 67 years now. I feel like a 30-year kid to talk because I love sharing my experience so that many people who are participating here can become successful leaders so that country gets benefited.
I think another question is basically an extension of what you already explained, is about your leadership style. I mean, what is the, I mean, specifically, I mean, you would like to add on what you already said.
Yeah, see, I call as myself a CEO in different dimensions. Chief Executive Officer is one, but I'm also Chief Educational Officer. I believe in training my people, developing my people. There is no month you used to pass without addressing my employees, without having conducted training programs. I'm a Chief Entertainment Officer. I keep cracking jokes and tell stories to my people. I'm a Chief Energizing Officer. I'm a Chief Ethical Officer. I'm like that, many dimensions. But particularly most important for me is I'm a coaching leader. I'm a participatory leader. I am also authoritative leader, not authoritarian. Authoritative, where I focus on my purpose, focus on doing the job professionally and helping them to correct it if there is a deviation.
So one question is related to when there is a the pilot or the staff not familiar with the knowledge of language, how do you treat them? I mean, how do you handle them?
Yeah, so whereas in UP 100 experience, we had language volunteers. So in the call center, the moment there's somebody from Spanish rings up, so we have a Spanish language volunteer. But frankly, in emergency, our experience showed, language was not a barrier. Road accident, bleeding, this kind of words you were able to get. And first dispatch an ambulance. When you are not able to understand, dispatch first. It doesn't matter, one waste. But don't say, I didn't understand, that's why I won't send. Better to err on the other side.
Yeah.
There was no complaint till now. In the last, 15 years, that ambulance has not come because they didn't understand my language.
There is one question I think you already covered, is regarding the difference between the service and the product delivery.
Yes, difference I told you.
You already covered.
Product as a patient service, patent, whereas this has it cannot be inventoried, it is time dependent, it is completely people driven, empathy driven, attention driven, listening driven, communication driven service.
One of our members is expecting some a sense of humor in your presentation today. Is expecting.
Yes, basically, when you ask me these questions, we are seeing everything India from one lens, service delivery from one lens. Now, husband and wife are having coffee, sitting in their apartment, looking at the opposite apartment balcony. Wife tells the husband, see, opposite lady doesn't know how to wash her clothes. They are so dirty. They are so black. Husband says, why are you telling me? Why don't you go and tell that lady? She says, no, I have so much trust in you. If I tell you, you will tell that lady. And poor fellow like this, he was listening every day from the wife. Opposite lady doesn't know how to wash clothes. And finally, on 10th day, wife asks husband, hey, come on, opposite lady has washed clothes today so nicely. The clothes are very bright and very white, very nice. Tell me, what have you done? Anything wrong happening in the neighbor's house, husband only is responsible. This fellow says, no, I have not done anything. Then what have you done? I got up half an hour before you, my dear wife, went and cleaned the glass window through which you are seeing their clothes. The dirt is actually on the glass of this window, our window. So many times we have to clean our glass, clean the lens, or adjust the lens to see things from a different perspective. I think we have to see ourselves in a new perspective, new lens, new angle of the lens. We have to also see our country from that lens we may also have to see sometimes some politicians from that lens. Without their help, without government's help, people at large cannot be benefited. You want to do something, 10 people, 100 people, 1 lakh, 2 lakhs, you can help. You want to help entire 5 crores, 10 crores of one state, you cannot do without seeing that state government, that political system and bureaucracy from a different lens. Without you getting corrupted, you can still make them produce more for our citizens with your help. That's why I call it as PPP, private professional and public servant under political will can make a difference to people when people like us can commit ourselves to do something.
Yes, sir. Sir, just from my side, is it possible to make this economically viable when it is at a scale like what we are talking about?
Very small, sir. What are we talking? A GDP of a state 150,000 lakhs crores, and what are we talking? The system costs only 100 crores. For a state like Gujarat, it costs only 100 crores per year.
No, that is true. But what I was trying to know is, can it be self-sufficient?
Absolutely, because we are spending so much money, allocating 100 crores in health is nothing. Of course, then instead of charging people, why should you charge?
Yeah, that is true.
And government is spending so much money on health, other things. This is a very fraction of the entire health budget. If 5,000-6,000 crores is spent on health budget in one state, spending 50 crores, 100 crores is 1 to 2%. Is nothing.
Yeah. So the last question will tell is about your future projects. I mean, what are your future projects?
I'm currently working with the government of Andhra Pradesh as advisor for health, relaunching the 108 and 104 in Andhra Pradesh. After 15 years, we have thought about it and made lots of changes. Second project, I am working with Telangana government, police department, launching 100 police emergency system for the state as a whole. Next project I am working is with McKinsey to launch similar 108 system for Saudi Arabia. I am working on that.
That is true.
And the fourth most important project, which is very close to me, every Saturday I put one video on the YouTube for 3 to 4 minutes, video on a topic. So far I have put 25 topics: hiring right people, or customer service, or delighting a customer, moments of truth, key account management, selling skills, negotiation. Today I did one on problem solving, decision making. Like that I have 150 topics. I have done 25. Every week one topic I put on the video, one video in YouTube. Please subscribe to my channel on YouTube, which is free. And for Gujaratis particularly, I'm telling it is free. No need to spend 1 rupee, but please listen to that. You will be benefited.
One last but important is related to the corona specific issues that are coming now.
No, I think it will be difficult for me to talk now about corona, except for me as an individual professional, this is the first time 8 months I did not travel. I didn't take a single flight. Rarely I came out of my house, but I saw this from a different lens. I saw as if I don't have any time. From that perspective, I spend every day reading a management book, reading a medicine or engineering book, reading one either Mahabharata or Ramayana or this, and then I prepare for my lectures. I also see one movie with my wife, 3 hours.
Yeah.
I walk for 10 kilometers every day, morning 5 and evening 5. I do yoga. All this what I have not done in the last 42 years, I'm able to do now, reading and seeing and developing myself. And going back, 10th class maths book I did, 10th science. Now I'm reading a book on emergency management principles. See, I'm reading this book. I'm not a doctor, but I'm reading this book now. Yes. Principles of Emergency Management, the medicine book. Instead of seeing corona as a risk, I saw it as an opportunity for myself, because I cannot do much about the risk except, wearing a mask and social distancing and sanitizing.
Yeah, yeah. So what I have seen personally is there is hardly 10 to 15% difference in your output in the current circumstances compared to pre-COVID life. What is your experience like in the overall?
No, in my role, except they see wherever there's a personal touch, naturally you will feel for it. But I didn't think such a gap. I thought almost, many jobs, except, some jobs where it is essential for personal touch, 60 to 70% performance is getting delivered. If it is a production factory worker, naturally it is not possible. Services definitely all are rendered.
So thank you very much, sir. And
Thank you so much.
we had a great opportunity to understand from you various elements of the service leadership, and particularly the leadership aspect of it, including the use of IT, then decision making, change management, leadership, and giving direction as a part of the leadership. And of course, your vision of saving 1 million lives, it's a great achievement. And thank you very much. And I'm sure that all our participants must have enjoyed.
Thank you. Thank you. Namaskar. All the
Thank you.
best to each of
We will
you.
look forward to listening to you in future, and we'll come back to you from time to time.
Thank you so much. All the best to each one of you.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye, sir.
Thank you, sir. On behalf of Nayar, sir, I would like to thank Pandya, sir, and Venkat Changavalli, sir. Thank you very much for sparing time and addressing on such an interesting topic. And the delivery was so nice. It was excellent, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care, sir. Everyone, take care. Stay safe. Good night. Good night, dear Pandya, sir. Good night, Venkat
Good night to
Changavalli,
you,
sir.
Radhika.
Take care, sir. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Yeah, with your permission, I end the meeting, sir.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.